As long as I can remember, my father had some type of communication device. So when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I was sitting in the backseat of our 1980s model Cadillac, and my father was driving and talking on his CB radio. We were headed home from church, which was about a 23-minute drive or so. And I remember saying to myself that night, when I grow up, I'm going to write a story about him called That Man, which described the way I viewed a man that I felt like I really didn't know. I basically had two views of my father. One was the back of his head for nearly an hour a day as we went back and forth to church. And the second view was of him preaching from a distance. I remember feeling like I never had the opportunity to talk to or even have a conversation with him because he was always dealing with someone else's problems or issues. As I got older, I discovered that most of my siblings felt the same way. Now it's 30 years later, and I'm just realizing how selfish I was. I was asking for an imperfect man who was born in an imperfect world to an imperfect family be a perfect father to an imperfect child. How can I expect a man who wore his hair like this to be perfect? Levi Rodney King was the second child born on Thursday, January the 8th, 1948 to Calvin and Evelyn King. He grew up hanging in the streets of East St. Louis, Illinois, not being able to get enough of what he calls his three favorite things, and that's fighting and peach cobbler. You do the math. This actually brings me to this point that I have skated around for years, and that's all of his children. Yeah, he has many children that he has fathered down through the years, which has caused just a wee bit of problems here and there. But at the same time, he's taken in and become a father to many who were not his biological children. I won't act like I have understood this my entire life, but I actually get it now. That man had demons he wrestled with, which also affected his outlook and his view on life. That man has spent his entire life working to provide for his house while also taking care of so many others. That man has more knowledge in just his pinky finger than all of his children put together. That man has had to stand over the lifeless bodies of people he doesn't know and also people close to him just to earn his living, which in itself has probably had an emotional effect on him over the years. That man has continued to press on and pastor and be ridiculed and talked about because he has chosen to strive on despite his embarrassment and shame over his personal shortcomings that he chose to expose himself, while the ones that have talked about him continue to hide theirs. That man has to live with this picture forever. That man had to try to be a father to so many when he did not feel as though he was wanted as a child. That man taught me how to be a hard worker and learn as much as I could in every situation. He taught me that every time I fall, get back up, dust myself off and keep it moving. Most of all, that man has had to deal with me being so harsh and standing in such strong judgment of him through the years. I can finally say that man was the absolute best father for me and was exactly what I needed to grow up and get it. I get it now. My prayer is that my other siblings come to the same point in the road that I did so they can experience the same kind of peace and love that I have experienced. From this day forward, I will strive to be half the man that man has been. And by the way, I forgive you for this. Love you, man.